Marshawn Kneeland is a defensive end fresh out of Grand Rapids, Michigan, who made a living beating up on tight ends and offensive tackles for the Broncos and is arguably the most physical defensive end coming out of this draft class. A former two-star recruit that played tight end and defensive end that was overlooked during the recruiting process, being that he only weighed 195 pounds. This shows that the scouts can get it wrong. A 2-year starter for the Broncos and a team captain his senior year. He made a decision to commit to none other than Colorado's finest, Deion Sanders, over TCU and UCLA. But shortly after, he got a chance to get to know new Western Michigan coach Lance Taylor and decided to stay. And that ended up being a smart decision, getting picked up in the second round to our Dallas Cowboys. Being around former Cowboy / newly hired coach Greg Ellis and having a chance to play with Micah Parsons and D-Law, they should get this guy ready to roll in early. So when you're taking a look at Marshawn Kneeland, this is an edge rusher that is 6'3", 267 pounds, a true missile coming off the edge that has 34.5-inch arms to gain leverage. And he also has an 83-inch wingspan, just like Tyler Guyton. So it's good to see a player that is physical, long arms with the ability to disengage from the opposition when it matters, Cowboys Nation. So on this play here, you're going to see the brute force from a guy like Kneeland. It's so good to be able to see how strong this guy is coming from that defensive end position, because if you can have a guy that can be able to collapse the pocket, it causes so much trouble for the offense. That defensive tackle, he's going to be slamming inside the A-gap, and the other defensive tackle, he's going to be stunting to the left. But just seeing this guy going out there and just being a brute force, forklifting this guy and controlling this guy all the way to the quarterback. And these are the plays here that can be backbreaking for offense. So we'll go ahead and spin it. So just watching Marshawn Kneeland, engaging in contact and freezing this guy at the line of scrimmage. And the thing is about this type of player, he has shown this on tape a lot. Once he can be able to clamp down on you, he has the lower leg power to be able to get home and collapse the pocket. And the thing is with this type of player, he made a living beating up on a lot of these offensive tackles throughout his college career. And this was the game where he had 11 tackles, 4 tackles for a loss, 3 sacks, a forced fumble, and he was responsible for 2 safeties. So whenever you can be able to have a guy that can go out there and make a difference, not saying that this guy was a sack artist, but if you can be able to collapse the pocket, sometimes you can have guys like Micah Parsons roaming free. You can have D-Law in single coverage. These are the type of plays here that brings the best out of defenders, and this was definitely a dominant rep. Here's another play here of him being able to just use his long arms and collapse the offensive line. Not only do you see this on pass plays, but he can get in the way as far as the run game. Just seeing this guy going out there and just engaging in contact again. The running back is getting the ball. Whenever you can be able to get to the backfield that quickly, it doesn't matter what kind of running back you have out there. They're going to end up getting caught up into that jam, and just being that main centerpiece right there to be able to clog things up. This is how you get better linebacker play, better safety play, because if you can be able to consistently clog things up like this, you can play cleanup. So consistency is key when it comes down to this, because when you get to the playoffs, a lot of these teams, they like to run the ball. But if you can have a guy that can be able to go out there and completely bench press a guy to the backfield, these reps here go a long way when we get down to playoff games. Marshawn Kneeland is one of the players that has the ability to be able to play on the left side, or he can play on the right side. He can be a disruptor all over the field. You can use this guy with cross face type of techniques, just being able to angle guys and cut them off. And he made a living doing that this past season, as well as the 2022 season. So on this play, it's going to be a draw to the left side. But when you see that left guard and that right guard, they're going to be pulling to the left side as well. And locking in on Kneeland, just seeing this guy being able to get across this guy's face and close in and make the tackle. It's so good to be able to see this when it comes down to this guy, because a lot of these schemes, they're going to have a lot of these guards and these centers. They're going to be on a move. So if you can be able to cut a guy off and have the IQ to be able to close in and understand what these running backs are trying to do, going out there and understanding his angles and finishing the play. These reps here can make a world of difference, Cowboys Nation. So we'll go ahead and run it. So just watching Kneeland get across this guy's face, it's so good to be able to see this from this guy, because he's shown this on tape. Just being able to have that outside shoulder free and keep that leverage to be able to close in and get to the quarterback. And this guy really made a difference being able to make these type of plays. And sometimes with these running backs, you can be able to fumble the ball quickly. When you have a guy that can be able to close in like that and be aggressive, it gets everybody riled up when it comes down to the defense. And he was one of the leaders on the team. And one thing about these coaches, a lot of these guys preach toughness and they preach consistency. And this is what you got when it comes down to Marshawn Kneeland. So here's another play here of him being able to angle well and disrupt the entire play. With number 50, you're going to see his inside shoulder it moves in an awkward position. And the thing is, when you have a guy that has brute force like that and he's aiming for one shoulder, he's going to have leverage and have the ability to keep his outside shoulder free just like that. It's hard for these running backs to be able to get away from these type of defensive ends like this. If you can be one of the players that can have that dinosaur type of mentality, going out there and hunting these ball carriers, these offensive coordinators, you have to scheme for a guy like him. And I believe that he was one of the better defensive ends as far as being able to cut guys off using a consistent bull rush out of all the defensive ends that came out of the draft this year. One thing about the defensive end position, there are going to be a lot of times where you're going to be seeing a lot of guys in space and you got to finish and you got to make that tackle. And the thing is with this type of player, sometimes he can be overly aggressive. So you got to make sure you get down to the technique things when it comes down to that defensive end position, because these plays right here can end up being critical in the most important games. So it's going to end up being a reverse to the right side with that wide receiver. And that tight end, he's going to be pulling to the right and he's going to be attacking Kneeland. But the thing is, it was snowing outside. But if you can be able to get your hands on the player, you got to make sure you bring him down to the ground. So we go ahead and run it. So it's a reverse to the right side. And you see that tight end, he bumped into Kneeland, but he didn't commit to blocking him. And both of those guys is one-on-one in the open field. And the thing is, you can't commit to tackling this guy so quickly because sometimes you can end up making a mistake. You got to break down and get down to the technique things when it comes down to just tackling a guy. But it was really, really slippery out there, but you don't want that to be a situation where it can be able to hurt the team. Now, I didn't see this guy make a lot of mistakes during his highlights. He does have some quiet plays, but being overly aggressive and wrapping up when he tackles is something that he can work on. So in this play here, it's going to be another one of those plays of him being able to use his hands well. It's going to be a run to the right side. And that tackle, he's going to be attacking Kneeland's outside shoulder. But seeing that left arm extending and attacking that offensive tackle and allowing himself to keep that leverage to be able to finish off that running back, this was definitely one of my favorite reps that I've seen on film. So let's run it. So zooming in on Kneeland, you see that he's crashing into this guy and just watching this guy being able to extend his hands. And the good thing is, whenever you do have that power, you can catch these guys off guard and make these guys stumble. And these offensive tackles and these guards, if you trip or make a wrong movement, sometimes that can end up being the biggest difference of the play. But being able to use your left arm and close in and get to the ball carrier and not allow this guy any room to be able to make a play, this is how you end up getting drafted early, regardless of whatever school you've been to. If you know that these guys are dogs with the ability to be able to make a big time difference like this, you got to go get these guys. So just being a guy that is a bully of a player all throughout his college career and hunting down the opposition, competition will be ramped up this training camp because this guy has what it takes to wreck games. in this final play here, I like to be able to see the defensive ends if they can be able to clog things up. A lot of these times you're going to have to just get in the way. So looking at that tight end and that offensive tackle, they're double team blocking, and that tight end he moved over to number 2. But keying in on Kneeling, he didn't really get a hold of the running back. But when you do have a guy that's powerful like that and can be a disruptor, whenever it's third down or 4th and 1, these are the type of reps here that the big time coaches look for. Even though he didn't really get his hands on this guy, but just being a disruptor, you love these type of gritty type of plays, and this guy has it. So when you're thinking about a guy like Marshawn Kneeland and what he can do for our Dallas Cowboys, he's not the perfect athlete. He does play stiff sometimes when it comes down to his pass rush. He's not the most bendy type of defensive end. He's one of those gritty type of players that can go out there and make a difference, play in and play out. So you got to be able to use this guy right. Having a guy like him, you can be able to spell Micah Parsons. We know that Micah Parsons can literally play all over the front seven. So when you have another dog that's in that interior, on top of having guys like DeMarcus Lawrence, this is what you like to see when you get down to training camp. So it's definitely going to be good with this type of player. But the thing is, it's not going to be perfect. But going out there, going up against guys like Zach Martin, going up against guys like Tyler Smith and Tyler Guyton, the trenches is one of the things that I'm going to be locked in on this training camp, because I know that if they can be able to get that right, that's how they can be able to take that next step when you get into the playoffs. So it's going to be exciting to see, Cowboys Nation. So make sure y'all like, share, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell, because the way the YouTube algorithm works, if you don't hit it, you'll miss on fire live streams and the best Cowboys film sessions on YouTube. All right, Cowboys Nation. Talk to y'all soon. Gone.